Can start anytime.
Okay, so it hasn't popped up for me yet. The recording started. It has now. Okay, welcome to this session. Now, the reason I built this session or proposed to do it in the first place was my background is doing dynamics, and I've written code, particularly for the back end in plugins, and I've written JavaScript for the front end, and I've done a lot with integration with Azure. But PCF was a very different experience for me. I think, like a lot of people, when you start with Power Apps Component Framework, you go, wow, it's so different because it's aimed at your modern web developer experience. It's so unlike anything else our XRM and Dataverse or Common Data Service experience has been to date. So, and I think I struggled. The first time I looked at this, I really struggled to know what to do. And how did I get started? What do I actually do? And although there's some various documentation, there's lots of videos, the hardest thing for me was actually setting up my environment. So what I thought, okay, let's introduce you just to get the basics. And I always, because I'm a trainer as well, my day job is, well, half solution architect, half training. A lot of it is getting people started. That's the hardest thing. So what I was trying to do in this session is, how do I get started so I can at least start writing code and I understand this process you need to go through. So I'm not going to focus on how to write code today. I'm going to focus on the process you need to go through to get started, what things you need to look at a minimum. And there's other sessions this afternoon on PCF, on Power Apps Component Framework, which will go into a lot deeper. And there's a lot of other stuff, a lot of other resources out there, including Danisha's book, which I'm going to talk about. So let's start. I'm going to say, first of all, what is PCF? What are Power Apps Component Framework code components? And then I'm going to take you through the steps to create your environment and tooling. Then we're going to create a simple PCF component in the easiest way possible. I'm going to make use of some of the community tools to take the pain out of it. And then we'll show you how to test and deploy it again using those same community tools. Now, what I've got, I've actually, there's quite a few links and things like that. So what I've done is I've published a blog post with a copy of these slides and all the links on there, and I've just pasted that into the chat. So if you want to go and follow along with me, it'll save you asking can I have the link. If you have any questions as we go along, please ask. We'll see how we get on today. So first of all, what is PCF and where can we use them? So Power Apps Component Framework, I think if you saw the keynote this morning, it explained it. It's about creating, this is my take on it, reusable, rich user interface controls that you can use in both model and canvas apps to create great user experiences. Now, unlike the rest of the Power Apps stuff, this is developer, and this is, I would say, much more your modern developer focused than even me as a long-time Dynamics and Power Platform developer. This was new for me because it's written using JavaScript, well, TypeScript, which Benedict just talked very eloquently from, and some of the things Benedict talked about with ESLint and things like that are some things you probably want to do. I'm not going to go into that, but you probably would want to do this, the lint stuff on PCF as well. But essentially, we need to write HTML, CSS, and TypeScript. So TypeScript to do the functionality, HTML to show and styling. And they are packaged as solutions. Now, the thing is, the way we create and use these is very, very alien to everything else we've ever done in the Power Platform world. So that's what they are, and there's a lot of really great examples, which I think we talked about. If you go to pcf.gallery, you'll find 300 plus examples again. I think in the keynote he showed that, so I'm not going to go over that. I'm just going to focus on how do I set up my development environment. And for me, this is the hardest thing. And the truth is, sometimes a lot of people, when they do the videos, or Microsoft, when they do the documentation, they forget because they've already got the stuff installed on the computer that you need to do this. So what I did is I actually got a brand new machine, and I went through everything I needed to set up to make sure I get it. And it's not a short list. Okay, This is what I call, this is modern development. I need to install all of this stuff. We use Node.js. We need to set up TypeScript. You either need Visual Studio or .NET Framework 4.6.2 Developer Pack. And it's important you do the Developer Pack. This one got me. I just installed .NET Framework 4.6.2. And I went, why can't I build anything? Because no, I need the Developer Pack. Now, if you install it through Visual Studio, you'll get it. But if you don't, you can use that. And you can use Visual Studio if you want to do it, but I prefer to use Visual Studio Code for all my modern development. It's a better experience, and it works better with these modern tools, with the community tools I'm going to talk about. You need the Power Apps CLI. Now, this helps you create your structure for your component. It also can be used for other things as well, including this. It can even create your structure for your plugins now as well. We're going to use some community tools. The XRM Toolbox, which hopefully you're all used and all fully aware of, and a couple of other tools, PCF Builder, which is a plugin for XRM Toolbox, and the PCF Generator, which I can't remember what Generator does, but it installs some other things for me to get me going. So we need all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's go through them. So first of all is you need to go to nodejs.org and download the long-term support option and install that. Okay, it's not a big installation, doesn't take very long. And when you've run it, you should verify it works by just from a command prompt type npm version, and you should get the version that says, or you should get some output like that. That shows it's successfully installed or verify it's successfully installed. So download it and just install it. It's downloads of Windows, or there's downloads for different things. So on that node.js.org, there's for Windows, but there's downloads for Mac and everything else. So yeah, I should have mentioned most of the tools, apart from the XRM Toolbox, are like Visual Studio Code. They are platform independent. But when we get into some of the community tools, we're onto Windows, especially Windows 10. Then we need to install TypeScript. So start command prompt and type npm install -g TypeScript. -g just forces it. Again, that'll go away. Go get it from node.js and install the TypeScript package. You can test it's working by tsc-v to give you the version number. So yes, so if you know if you've got TypeScript installed, just type tsc --v to command prompt. So if it'll do it for you, Elizabeth. That's what that command does. So you can just do that. Try it out, and you'll see if you've got it installed. So again, what I've got is I'll try to go. So if you go back to here, you can just type npm version. If you're not sure if you've got a node in or not, just type npm version, and it'll go. That's why I put these up here so you can test them. Okay. So that's a little while. I'm not going to do this because they do take a little while to run to get through, but I'm showing what the output should look like. So yes, you run again. Yeah, tsc-v afterwards for it to run. Right, then you need to either download Visual Studio. Now, this is step 3 or step 4. There's 2 ways of doing this. You can download Visual Studio, and you can download the Community Edition. It's a free edition, and install that. And in Visual Studio, you then need to go and install .NET Developer Pack. You need .NET 4.6.2 because that's the version of .NET that the Dataverse is currently using. It's an old version and isn't normally installed by default. So if you install Visual Studio, it won't be installed by default. You have to go select it. Now you can go, if you don't want to do Visual Studio, you can just go to that link there, go to .NET 4.6.2. But if you do go there, make sure you download the developer pack, not the runtime, because we need to be able to build, and that has the build command in. So download don't download the first one, which is what I did when I was setting this up. Why isn't that working? So actually what I did is end up going into Visual Studio, the Visual Studio installer. And if you want to get it all working, to get it right, just go to the Visual Studio installer. What you have to do to get .NET 4.2 is select the ASP.NET and Web Development on the top left. And then on the right hand side, it's one of the optional installations, the 4.6.2 developer tools. You don't need to install Node.js development unless you want to do it. I'm actually going to build everything in Visual Studio. So then I go get Visual Studio. Code.visualstudio.com, download and install that. Again, this can work on multiple platforms. And there's probably some other packages you need to install. Actually, I'm not sure if you do. I thought it'll install the packages automatically when you start using it. Again, so the way it works is pretty empty to begin with, and you install extensions, but it'll prompt you that you need them. Our next step, and this is just, I have to go and install the Power Apps CLI. So we go to aka.ms/Power Apps CLI, and we can go get that, and it takes me to here, and it just starts downloading it. It's only a small file. Then you just run the installer. Now this, I believe, is Windows only. This is Windows 10 only. So you're only able to build these components with a Windows 10 machine, despite some of the other stuff all being multi-source. This is Windows 10 only. So just install that. And we can verify that it's installed just by typing command prompt, then type PAC, PAC. Power Apps CLI. That's our main command, PAC. And it'll just give you something, an output like this with, if it's working with the version number, show, okay, the different things we can do. And you can see it's got things like solutions, plugins, PCF. It's got stuff for working with portals now as well. I hadn't spotted that, working with the Dataverse. So it's a command line interface for doing certain amounts of work with Dataverse, as well as coding. But we're going to use it here just on the PCF. Step number 7, XRM Toolbox, my favorite tool, set of tools. So for those of you who don't know what XRM Toolbox is, it is, it's been going for quite some time now, but it started off as a set of tools to help admins and customization. But it started originally with about 30 tools. It's now got well over 100 tools, and you need to download it and install it. It's not that massive install, but what it has, the tools, some tools are included automatically. Other tools you have to add in as plugins. There's a tool library. So when you first start PCF, it actually starts off something like this. Windows, what do I get? Window. Yeah. Where's it? No, where's this normal start? It's normally a start page pops up with tools. I can't remember actually how it starts. So yeah, it normally starts with this, the open tool library, where you get a list of all the tools. So when it first starts up, you get all the different tools that are available, and you can see it's a long list. Okay, so you download and install it, and then what you've got to do once you start running it, in that screen, search for PCF Builder and install it. So you go into options. So you search for PCF. There's a couple of other tools. There's more than one PCF tool. There's another one from Mark Carrington. We're going to use the PCF Builder, which is built by Danish, who's doing a session later on. He's doing a session on PCF Builder, and I'm going to use PCF Builder. What it is, he's created this to simplify the building, so I don't have to remember all those CLI commands. I'm able to build something without typing all the individual commands and understanding which command I've got to do in which order, which when you first come to PCF is one of the hardest things. Yeah, so Michael says you need the MS Build toolset, and this, I'm going to come to that. So that .NET 4.6.2 developer pack includes the MS Build. And I have no idea when it's going to be available for the Mac. I have no idea. You might want to ask some of the people who do more PCF later on today on that. But yes, that's why, Michael, you have to install the 4.6.2 developer pack. It includes MS Build. And yes, yeah. Okay, so install PCF Builder, install that. And then when you run, there's another tool called PCF Generator. Now, when you go and run the PCF plugin, so if I go into here and start my tools, the way you search, if I search on PCF here, get PCF Builder, when you first load it up, it will, if it can't find the PCF generator tool, it'll add that in and install it on your computer. So it does that for you. Alternatively, these are the commands to go install it. You need to install Yeoman first, which is the first command, yo, and then you go and install the PCF generator. So if it doesn't work, those are the commands to fall back on. So hopefully by the end of this, to be honest, it doesn't take that long when you know what you've got to do. The first time I did this, I was just getting so many, why can't I do this? I missed a step. I missed out the thing. Right, the other thing that I found problematic, and this comes back to build, I'm going to mention it now. So I've installed, as Michael said in the chat, you need to have the MS Build pack, and that's installed with the .NET 4.6.2 developer pack. Now, it should be that, let me just go and open a command prompt up. I should be able to just type MS Build. This, you should test this. I haven't got it in the slides, but this is what you should do. And you should be able to type it and you get, oh, all right, okay. I get, at least it's running. When I did this on my new computer the other day, it didn't go, it didn't find it. Because MS Build isn't in the path. It hadn't added it into the path of my computer. So if I do echo dollar, is it path? Is it? Or was it just, I can't remember how to find the path. It's the path. I can't remember how to show the path anymore. I used to be, this is, anybody know how to show the current path? Oh, no, just type path. Okay, the path is in your computer. So just to go and find things out. Yeah, echo percent path, I'll find it. I just type path, it comes out. So what I did is I just did this. I pressed the Windows key and I think I did startup. Was it startup? I can't remember what I did. So I just actually start Windows, just type Windows and type path. Okay, so I just typed the Windows key, just type path, and I got this, the edit the system variables. Let's open that up. It opens up this. And one of this, you see the environment variables button here? I clicked on that. And here's my path. When you scroll down, if I scroll down, I see the path here. Here's my path. And I scroll down, you see everything that's in my path. And you see, I've actually added in the build path. So how did I find it? Well, I just started Explorer up, and it's pretty much normally under your Visual Studio. That's why I saw Visual Studio Community Edition. That's what it happened to be for me. So I went into C program files, because Program Files 86, because Visual Studio is still a 32-bit application. Microsoft Visual Studio 2019 Community, and you see there's an MS Build folder. And then I think I did current in. Is that where build is? There it is. So I found the path. Okay, so I went and found that path, and you can get it from here. And I copied that and I put it into my path. So I went to put it in there. I went to add it new to my path, and that's what I've got in. If you don't do that, it won't work. It'll just fail miserably when you get to some of the tasks. Yeah, so I can do it if I've got, yes, you're right, if I'm command prompt, but I'm going to be building this in Visual Studio Code. So that's, yes, you're right there, but I like to have it in my main path so I can run it from anywhere. But if you can't find it, but I've seen it before, even with Visual Studio Enterprise, it doesn't put it in the path correctly. Yeah, I can't really zoom in on that, so I can just show you this. So yes, but I've just talked you through where we're going. So search for. So yes, I just went and set my path and I went to my community. Let's go where I went to Microsoft Visual Studio 386 and went through and found it. Visual Studio 2019 community. And you got a build folder. Then you got current, and you got bin. So it might not be in that place for you. It was for me. It might be in a different place depending what you've got installed. And then I went and added it into my that settings. I used the, where was it gone now? I closed it. I've probably closed it down now. Or Cortana started up. Just press Windows and type path. That's the easiest way I find to get the path. It takes me here, and it's this one here. Environment variables button here to add it in, and then you can see them. And then it's select it and edit it, and just add it to the line. So add a new one. So I've done that. So that caught me out. I've had it before where Bill doesn't get added to the path, but it should be if you do it right. Okay, what do we do next? So how do I create a component? Right, I'm going to use PCF Builder because it's going to make my life a lot easier. I am not going to have to remember all the little pack commands and build commands. Well, it actually shows you what they are, which is quite nice. Because I always forget, and you have to, because with PCF you have to do things in a particular order, and it's really easy to miss a step. So what I'm going to do is I've created a new folder on my computer, on my D drive, and I didn't mean to close Explorer. Cortana's decided, so need Explorer. I went into my D drive, into my source folder, and I just went and created a folder called PCF Demo. So that's all I've done. I've got an empty folder called PCF Demo. And then all I'm going to do is we're going to use that to create our thing. So you always start with an empty folder. So I'm going to start XRM Toolbox now. Here we are. So let's go and see what we see. I did a search for PCF in my tools. If it's not, doesn't there when you search for it, you have to go in and add it. Go to the tools. What is it? Go to start page and add in tools. Go to the tool library and add it in. So you have to. So it's not one of the tools that's installed automatically. So you have to go find it and install it. Okay, then just click on it. It's going to ask me. It's actually asked me if I want to connect. It's on my other screen. Okay, there. So I'm going to connect to an organization. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to need to do it later. I'm going to publish it up to my. Which one is it? I think it's that one. Okay, let's connect to my Dataverse environment. But it doesn't. I don't need to. And what's the first thing I'm going to do is have to tell it where I want the folder. So let's just go over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and select my folder. Sorry, let's get my slides up. So select the plugin, select the folder. So first thing up here, my PCF, I'm going to go browse to my folder. So go to where that was. It was on my D drive. Doesn't matter. This is where it is. Source. Select that folder. Okay, so change into that folder. Okay, so in that folder. Right. Actually, what I'm going to do is actually, because I did it yesterday, I'm going to click on new PCF control. So I want to new blank one. Actually, I need to do this first. First time you go, you won't have anything. But because I did something before, I'm going to do new blank one. So everything's blank. That's what it should look like. Select my folder, which I just did. It's in that folder. And what you should see is an empty namespace, an empty name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my namespace. So Bootcamp to do, so cover Power Apps Bootcamp, and I'm going to give it the control a name. So what am I going to give it? Sorry, I'm going to give it a PCF demo control. And then here, so let me make this a bit bigger so you see what's going on. So I type in a namespace, I give it a control name, and then I have to select a template. And I can either field or data set. So field just means it's going to be a field. The data set is a list of records. I'm just going to choose field. I'm going to choose none. So I do that. Okay. So that's all I need to do. All I'm going to do is click on create. Enter namespace, select fields and template, select none, and click on create. And this is what you should do. So this effectively and I click on create up here, let's zoom in so you can actually see it run. Can I look at this run? So you see what happens when I click on create. It's going to run this pack PCF init command. It actually gives you the command it's running. Okay, and it's doing an npm install to go and install all the node.js packages. This takes a few minutes. I always just warn ignore the warnings. But this is going to create me a set of folders and create me my starting point for my code. It's going to create all the files. It's going to effectively create the structure I'm going to work with, the scaffold. So it runs the pack piece. So you don't need to use this. You could remember the command. It's just pack PCF init minus namespace minus name. And what's the other thing? Minus template, and then which type of template. And it'll go in and do this. So let's just wait for that to finish. And just watch that. It'll take a few minutes. There, it's done. It says it's found zero vulnerabilities. And then I can just click open in VS Code. Okay, if I do that, I've already got VS Code running. So I've got 2 copies of VS Code running now. So I have VS Code. No, I just opened up in the one. And I just want to show you what we get. We get a folder structure. So let's see what we've got over here. So what we've got, let's open up in my folder. I've got all my node modules, loads of them. Just ignore that. Then I've got, you see, we've got lint stuffs in here. If I want to do my lint handling. So we've got a whole series of little JSON files and project files. So first of all, let's have a look here. Look at tsconfig.json. It just says some basic setups for that. We've got a project file, which is an XML file, which says what's in here. You see it's got .NET 4.6.2. There's a framework package and what it's using. You normally don't need to edit these. So what I'm not going to edit these. I've got a PCF file, which just says where my output is, and a package.json for all my other packages. So these are script. What will happen later on, MS Build, when it runs, is going to be running these scripts. So you see, it's also got my lint stuff in there, lint plugins, so I want to use lint in the stuff. That's automatically plugged in. What I want, so I'll just move my slides on a bit. So somehow I've managed to kill my slides. So hold on. I managed to hit escape on the slides and it stopped my slides. So let's go back to that. So what do I have? So when you open it up and it's finished running, we get a folder structure like this. So what you see is all those JSON files. There's a project file. Now the project file, the PCF project file, is named after what you call the control. There's also a folder that's named what you call the control. So if I just go back to mine here, I just close Visual Studio as well. Here, I call my control PCF demo control 2. That's the name of the PCF project file here is named after the folder I created. My folder is called PCF demo. So the PCF project file is named automatically after the folder I've done, and it then creates a folder which is named after my control. And then if I'm looking at, there's 2 files, and these are the 2 files we're going to concentrate on. So the tsconfig, let's go with this one. That's just for settings for my TypeScript project. That's TS is TypeScript. But also, so you rarely make changes, but it does do some build properties. So PCF config JSON, that helps with my build setup where the outputs are. And package.json for any other npm packages I want. So I think you'll find if you want to install React or other things, this is where you'll start putting those packages in. So script. Oh, I hate this zoom. It doesn't work so nicely. Right, then we get 2 files in the subfolder. In the custom PCF control, the folders there, I get the control manifest.input.xml and the index.ts. And if you were on my PL400 talk about an hour ago, these are the 2 files you need to concentrate on for the exam. Let's have a look what's in those. Let's try and understand what's in the manifest file. So the manifest file is essentially saying the properties for inputs and outputs. It also says what my code files is. So it's what I'm going to use. So here's the first thing. You see it's got a namespace, which came from my name that I gave it when I created. I used PP Bootcamp as a namespace, and then it's got the control name. So mine will be slightly different in this example. This is what I did yesterday. And then it has a property. So by default, it has one, because I chose field as my template. It's created a single property of type text. It is bound. So bound means I can read and write values, or my form that I put this control in can read and write this value. So it can be an input and an output parameter. And I can say it's required is true. And we'll see these where these appear later on. And also got the code path. Now I actually removed a load of fields because it actually puts a load of other stuff that's commented out. So if I wanted to have any style sheets, they'd be in here. There's also a load of other things that go in here, but I just cut it down to what we need as a minimum. Right, so if I go back to my Visual Studio and I go and have a look at this control manifest, you see it's got a lot more information in it. It's got a lot of, so I haven't been seeing the chat. So if anybody asking me any questions, no. You can ask questions if you go along, but I'm just trying to explain the process and understand where you need to go. Because it's one of the hard things, what do I need to edit? And the first thing you need to do is effectively, for me, is go to the manifest file. This is the first thing we need to do, and we need to go define our property, our properties. Do we need one or more properties? Which bits of data are we transferring? So this is the first thing you go into. What I want my inputs and outputs to be. So for instance, I can specify the property. I want to give it a name. It's various different types. So single line.email, that's what I'm going to use. Or you can do things like whole.num. The data types, the field types are a bit different to everything else in Dataverse. So whole.none is the integer, whole number. You've got FP for floating point. You've got option set. Although we've called choices now, we've still got option set in here. And two options, not yes, no. So we're still in the old ways of naming things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go add in two properties. I'm going to rename them. I'm going to go edit my thing. So what I'm going to do is just going to change this. I'm going to give it a name. And I'm going to change it to email. So what I'm going to do, okay, I'll explain the control I'm going to do. I'm going to do a very simple control just to return the length of an email address, the number of characters in it. I want to keep something that's really, really simple with an input and an output. So I'm going to have an email, call it a bit of description. This is what's going to, you'll see where this appears later on. It's a email field, property, description key, email field. So we'll hope we might see these later on. Icon type. So I would say single line.email. And if I just go further over, hopefully you can see this. I switched it to light mode. I normally have them on in dark mode, but when you're presenting or you need to see it, it's hard to see dark mode. It's bound is true, so that means input and output. The other values for bound, I think, are, I forgot what the other value is for bound. What can I do? Is it it's bound or input? If it's input only, yeah. So bound means it's read and write. Okay. I appreciate your comment there, but Jagger, or is it Jagger or is it Booty first name? This is, I'm really not going very deep at all. There is some serious deep diving going on this. I'm just trying to do the real minimum here. I'm going to add another one in now. So let's go add another one in. So I'm going to cheat and just copy this and change it. So I'm going to call this email. I don't know actually about getting IntelliSense. Does it have IntelliSense? Probably there is, but I don't know about it. So what I'm going to do is going to call this email length. Call it email size. So I'm just going to create two fields, email, length of the email. I'm going to have this as a number. So this is going to be whole.none. I'll leave this one bound as well, required, just so I can get it in. Yeah, bound is true. Just see what else I've got in here. I've got other things I can comment out. I can start commenting on these. You can actually see some of the properties there. It shows you some of them. Just give you a key. I'm going to remove all that. I don't need that. We see the resources just got the path to my index.ts. Now, index.ts is my TypeScript where my code is. That's my TypeScript file. You can have more than one TypeScript. You just have to add files. You just have to add them in here. Again, if you were putting style sheets or resources in, you put them in here. And again, if I want to use certain features, like use the capabilities of the device, get other values, you've got these other capabilities. I don't need them, so I'm just going to leave those as they are. So I'm just going to save that. So I've made my change. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is just change the property. Then we've got 4 methods. So if I go have a look in my, how much time I've got left? Okay, plenty. There are 4 methods. Let's just explore what these 4 methods do. So init is the function that gets invoked when the control is loaded. And is never invoked again. So that's, you need this to define your HTML, HTML elements, and maybe set the default values. So it's the control is reloaded if you navigate between records. So say it's on this control, you put this controller form. I'll put my new email control, this PCF controller form. It'll get reloaded every time I switch to a different record. It doesn't get reloaded again. Oh, that's nice. Oh, okay. Okay, so I've actually installed PCF Builder. So there's an extension for Visual Studio Code. Thank you for that, for this. So yeah, I'll just show you how you'd install that actually while we're doing it. Let's go into PCF. If you want to install an extension, it's just go to the extension library. And probably if I could just search for it, PCF. There we are. Well, actually, the PCF Builder here, I'm not sure if it's it allows me to run PCF Builder inside Visual Studio Code. I hadn't gone that far. There's also there's something else. There's this one. I haven't seen this one. Also complete snippets. I'm not sure if he does if it does the IntelliSense. And he says you've got to have PCF generator on it. It just allows you to. I'm not sure if it does IntelliSense. It just does what it does the same things as what I can do with the PCF Builder in XRun Toolbox. It's exactly the same thing. It just allows you to run it as commands. That's all that does. But I don't think it does the IntelliSense. Go back to my code. We're going to look at the index.ts now. So what we have at the beginning. Okay, first of all, let's do what it is. It first of all defines this manifest type. So I'm going to show you this. It's a generated file. So if I look at the manifest types here first, you see it's got a sample property. So what it's done is got my sample property. When I created the thing the first time I generated, it had just in my control manifest just this sample property. When I go build this, this is going to generate 2 files. I'll get the email and email length put in here automatically. I don't edit this; it's automatically generated. But it's referred to at the top of the index.ts up here. So there's inputs and outputs. Then I've got my class, and then I've got an empty constructor here at the top. Then I've got my 4. It adds in these 4 separate methods. Init, which is run the first time. Update view. This is called whenever the value changes. So effectively it can update my control. So if the component externally changes, what I'm linked to, the field changes, it'll update mine. So if my control could be refreshed. Get outputs allows me to allows the external form to read my input. So if I want to pass a value back, I have to set it in the get outputs. And then destroy is what you need to do if you need to clean up anything. So these are your 4 methods. I'm going to do a very simple one now. So what I need to do is I first off need to define my HTML elements. Okay, then I'm going to put something in the init and update and the output. I'm going to do this very, very quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm going to sort of sheet. So what first thing I have to do in my code is I'm going to go and define within the top of my class. Oh, go away. Is I need to define some, and I can't type, private. I'm going to find an HTML element. So I start off in this, going to have an HTML div element. Where are you, div element there? Okay, so I define it as a div. I need a div element for my because you need to define you need to define. You can't just write it. So I'm going to have a div element, and I'm going to add in a text box. Text area element. So I'm just going to add those two in. Okay, and I'm also going to do this. I'm pretty much. First of all, we have to see what happens when something changes. Use this later on. We should always do this. So you might be able to ask somebody else why we need this. But I'm going to have to do that. So I've done this. And then in my init stage, I'm effectively going to create this. And I'm just going to copy my code in just so it's going to be quick. So I'm going to create 3 lines just to define my HTML components. So I'm referring back to the things I've created there. I'll set up the notify output change because notify output change is here. It's this little model here. It's in the constructor. And then I'm just going to link my text box to my div element and then add it into the container. Again, you'll see a good, I think I've scrolled over, you see I've got container. That's my main element it's going to run in. So I'm just adding my text box into that container. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my input value. I'm going to set the text box to be my email address. Remember, I specified my email address as the input value. So I do context parameters.email. I'm getting an error because it doesn't exist yet. I haven't built it. But when I build it, that'll go away. And then I need to tell it I've changed the output. So if we just do this, it's going to notify that's going to trigger it's changed and it triggers the update. I'm going to have to add some other code. Again, whenever I'm going to just trigger an update here, just say, OK, anything's changed, just trigger the output change. Because it's going to notify my output to update my output. So with this sitting here, triggers this get outputs command. So whenever it does something, go and do it. And in my outputs, all I'm going to do is return my value. So instead of return here, I'm going to say return email length, this.textbox.value.length. Now, right now, again, I've got errors because I've got nothing. But I've written my code there. That's my code done. So I add in those things. So you have to add some HTML elements and you have to go add in. Now, I don't need to do I've done that. But you need at least something on the init. And if you want something output, you need to get output. So you pretty much always need the output view. And then all I do is I'm going to switch them back to my PCF builder because it's going to make my life easier. Next one, toolbox. I'm just going to click build. OK. Right, that's not good. I haven't seen that error before, but you see what it does. It's going to run npm run build. That's the command it's running down there. It's going to run a whole series of PCF scripts. You'll see it, and it'll run through, and it'll take it a little while. And eventually, it'll build it. Okay. Oh, okay. You can do excellent. You can do IntelliSense in there. Okay, so has it built? Has it worked? Has it finished? No, it's still running. Oh, it looks like it has finished. Actually, it might be me. So yeah, let me just clear the console. I'm just going to run it again, just to make sure it worked. And I'm not sure I'm getting an error there for Danish. If he's on the call, can probably explain it. Let's let it build again. Okay, that's worked nicely. It's built. If I switch back to my Visual Studio Code, what we'll see is I just want to have a look at the manufactured generator. So I look at this, the manifest types.ds.ts. It should be generated. I should see something like this. Here we go. And if it's worked properly, yes, it has. It's now populated those with the inputs. So these are ones that were defined in my control manifest. It's now understanding and put those in there. So that's generated. So I don't need to correct that. I always check that to make sure it's right. Okay, so what do I do next? Well, there's a test option. There's a test harness that allows you to test it on your computer in a little in a browser. So I'm just going to do that. And I can, again, I'm just going to do it from within here. I'm going to click test. It's going to launch up. It runs npm start. Or I think it's yeah. It runs the start npm start. And we give it a few seconds, and we should see a test harness suddenly appear. Come on. There we are. So we can see here the value. And that, so what it says, this is the value it's passing in. And it's displaying it in my control. I haven't done any styling on it. It's just sees what the output is. It always puts the default value there. I can see, so I can change what the value is here. So I can say Julian. I missed something. It's not updating it, but I don't. But normally, if I type something here, if I did it right, it'll update it in there and change it there. It's not doing it. And I can see the output there. The output there is 3, so it's telling me the length. If I just close it down and run it again, you will see that it'll remember that value, and you'll see the length is longer. Yeah, I think I must have missed something, or I've made a slight error, but it should automatically change it. There we go. So it now says length 15. So I can see that's working. I can test here before I deploy it. So it increases my productivity. And actual fact, what it's done is npm watch. I can actually change the code in my Visual Studio and rebuild it. It'll actually take, as I put this, it's got the watch statement on, so it's watching for changes. So it'll actually make changes and display it. It becomes quite a nice experience. So I just terminate that job to finish. Go away. We're done. And the next stage is. So yeah, this is what test harness looks like. And then all I do is create a solution. So I want to now upload it into Dataverse and start using it. I'm going to create a solution. So I go down to PCF Builder. We see down here. Let me just reload the details. Sometimes I have to do this. Why is it not letting me? I'll tell you what. I think it's that error that. Okay. Okay, right. So what I'm going to do is, I've got the details there. I'll make sure it's initialized. It's showing me all right. Okay, I'm just going to give it a solution name, PP Bootcamp Demo 2. Okay, I need to give it a publisher. So I'm going to say PP like everything Bootcamp. Everything in every solution must have a publisher. I need to have a prefix, PPB. And all I do is click on this. Now this, I have to click on create and add control. What that does, it creates a solution folder and adds the control to the solution on my local computer. Is that finished? Yes, it has. If I go back to Visual Studio now, we have a look. We've got a solution folder with a source folder, and we've got some XML files. We've got solution.xml and it's got the solution file. I've got some customizations, which. So it's not finished yet. I haven't got it's, although it's linked it in, it's added it into the solution. I think it might be down there. I haven't built my solution yet. So what I'm going to, the next step is to go and build the package. So I just click on the build button. And this is where MS Build comes in. So go to my PCF. I just click on build. And I don't know why we're getting that. I wasn't doing that yesterday. And see what it's doing. It's now going to generate a zip file. So it's going to, what we'll find is here, it's building all these things together. And it'll have a little zip file containing my solution. So it's just like you create something in Dataverse solution, exporting it. That's what you get. And it's doing all these commands for me, so I don't need to understand the steps. So it's finished. Because most of the time it's like, which step have I missed? It's just nice and you just follow it down the order. So is that finished? I said, yes, it's finished. Been finished. So let's go have a look at my Visual Studio folder again. We go have a look at the bin folder. Here's my zip file. I've got a zip file. And I could just manually go to that folder and import it in my Maker portal. Let's just switch to my Maker portal. Here's my Maker portal. I go to my solutions. Here's the one I did yesterday or the day before, a couple of days ago, just to test this out. And I could just go and import that, but I can, yeah, there's an option just to deploy it from within PCF. Just click on deploy. Now, why is it not doing it? Then we just reload the details. Yeah, now it knows it's got it initialized. Sometimes you just have to reload it up here just to get it later on. And I click on deploy. I'm already connected to an environment. So if I wasn't connected, it'd prompt me at this point, and it's just going to run the import. It's going to add that component to the solution. Well, it's going to import that solution. So it's just running that import. Notice it still says CDS there, Danish. But I import it in. I click on deploy. I'm importing it in, and then after I've imported, we will see it in my list of solutions. And if I was going there and drill down, you can do it. So while that's working, it does take a few minutes to do this. I'll just show you what we do next. Now, to add the custom control to a form, we have to use the classic form editor. And it's just another control that appears, just like the other controls. You go onto the controls tab. So what you do is you need to have a field to do this on. So you have to add a control to an existing field. So you need a field. Then you go and edit that field in the form editor, the classic form editor. Go add the control. It'll be there in the list. You just select it from the list. And then you just set the properties. Now you see I specified an email field and email size. So I actually created a field, a custom field, to hold the output from my field. So I created a field called email length, just a whole number field to match the output. And then when I go run it, it'll look like something like that. So on my form, I'm not going to go through. It takes a few minutes to go through the process. But I just go add the field on, and I've now got my custom control. Now they're just like any other control, because Microsoft are actually using PCF themselves to build things. Like the editable grid is a PCF control. Some of the things in field service are PCF controls. So that's the process. Has it imported yet? It has imported. So if I just go have a look at my, yeah, it's been uploaded. We've just done it there. That's day's date. It's have a look. We'll see in there. It's just got a control. And I went in and added it to the. This is what I did yesterday. I just went to add it into the contact form. I'll just show it you just so you can see it. I'm not going to do it. So yeah, first of all, I created a column called email length custom field. Then I went to the form editor. But I have to switch to classic. I need to go to the classic mode to be able to get this. Yes, so Michael, yes, if you publish up, it'll overwrite. It'll update the solution. Yeah, there are a few little gotchas around this. So you can use an existing, one of the options is to select an existing solution, and that's probably the best thing to do. Create your solution in Dataverse first, then when in PCF Builder, select it and use that. So let me just switch to classic. This will take a few minutes. Yeah. And you can clone it as well. Yeah, there's a look. There is so much more about this. I just wanted to get you through the starting point so you knew where to go, how to get your developer environment up, what bits of code. You see all these little files. What do I need to focus on? And right at the beginning, just focus on the manifest.input.xml, add in your properties for your fields, and then the index.ts. But then use the PCF Builder to do the steps. Once you get familiar with it, you can start, okay, I know what the commands are. It's probably might get it to be quicker to start running the commands in Visual Studio Code. So yeah, if I go to this field, here's my email field. Just double click on this. Go to the controls, and you see here, here's my custom control, and here's our settings. You just add the control, and it's there. You just add it in. And then you say, make sure you just say, people always forget this, to say, just show it on the web, because when you add it in, it's automatically showing the text box control. I'll say, no, I want to use my control for the email address. And then you just select which field it is. So it affects that one to one. I say, okay, which field I want to output it to. And I added a field in because I didn't want to use the other fields. I could have used number of children, I suppose. But I just want to map it out. And it does it. It'll only allow me to select fields of the same type. And then that's done. That's how it works. So some resources for you. I've got a few minutes left. I've got a link to all the Learn training in my collection, the different Learn that's available to go through. It's pretty good to get started, but it misses the setup steps. It misses some of the little things when you go through. Hopefully you'll understand a bit more with mine. But they're worth working through. There's some videos I pulled out of different people and a couple of blog posts about getting started. I can't remember which ones they are. There's maybe some people talking on here. I don't know which ones they are. There's some Microsoft one from different things. So I pulled a few videos. They're not massively long. Some about 40 minutes. This is 60. Scott, a really good one. Scott's the guru on PCF, and a few other links. I've also pointed at a couple of things. There's some sample code. That's in parts. There's some standard components. Slides link isn't working. Okay, what do you mean the slides link isn't working? I mean the link I posted earlier on my blog post or whatever. It's not. I'll come back to that. Also, PCF gallery. If you want to go look at anything else, here's PCF gallery. You can go find lots of examples. Most of these you'll find if you actually go into them, they'll have to download to the GitHub. So you can go to the GitHub page and see how they've actually written it. And that's how I've learned to do things. I've gone and looked at other people's code. How have they done it? Then you've got the docs. Again, I've got some different docs on things like using control. These are these two second one, these second and third one, the main ones to go through. But they miss out some of the steps. It's not clear. They sort of assume you know things. Okay, and just to remember that Dinesh has written this book, Extending Parts with Component Framework. Really goes into this, including lint and everything else. It's a really good book. I reviewed it, and I went through all these examples in the book, and I found it really, really useful. I learned some things because I'd only ever done templates with fields. I'd never done the word templates with data sets, for instance, and I found that really useful. It's a really good book. You get 35% off. So hopefully you should know where to start. So somebody's posted the link, say the link to my blog doesn't work. Link on the blog post. Okay, let's just go to that blog post. So if I go to the blog post, let's just see if it works. Let's just open up a chat. Hey Dinesh. So called out PCF Builder for you because Dinesh wrote PCF Builder. So ask him any questions. So the slides don't work. Yes, they do. They're there. They're working for me, and that's not in my browser. That's in a different browser. So the slides should be working. If not, I'll get you the full. This is the link to the slides if you want to try and get it directly. Okay, has anybody got any questions? Yeah, I mean, my purpose of my session today was to get you started. I think it's really good. Yeah, Andrew's PCF Academy is really good. I didn't get that link, but I think it's a steep learning curve. And a lot of people fail at that first step. How do I even get to build a simple thing? That's what I've hopefully shown you today. You can go and do. Yeah, that link, that should work. Yeah. Anybody else got any questions? Or should we stop recording and hand over back to who's on next? I can't remember.
Thank you very much.
It's Benedict again, isn't it?
Yes, it's me again.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
So,